Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the number one way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Deb.
And we host a pretty fun podcast called Today We Laughed and Learned. You know, this is where we discuss all the things we should have learned, but, well, never did. And we have quite a few laughs along the way.
Today we laughed and learned with Chris and Deb.
We're curious about everything. Experts on nothing.
Come find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Films and Fermentation. This is episode 125. Typing that number into the notes felt really weird for some reason, but I'm like, wow, 125 episodes. That's right. We are Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. We are not celebrating our birthdays in this episode. I forgot to take that out of the notes. That was the previous episode.
Well,
this episode,
mine's tomorrow.
You are. Well, I mean, it's not the birthday episode anymore. No, this episode, episode 125, is 2001: A Movie Odyssey. In this episode, we're revisiting another recurring segment this year in film history. For the first time, we're going to be revisiting a year in the 21st century, and in this case, as I said, the year 2001.
In the year 2001.
Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media podcast links. Become part of the Films and Fermentation family by supporting us on Patreon or buying our merchandise at teespring.com. Gentlemen, what are we drinking this evening?
I'll go first. I'll go first.
Yeah, Kevin took a trip today, so.
Yes, I went to Total Wine and More. Total Wine and More? I think so. Yeah, and I just went up and down their pumpkin section and started hand-picking my pumpkins. And I had my wife select, of the 6 new ones I got, had her choose 2 for me because she wanted to try them. So the first one we have is from Two Robbers, which is a local brewery in Philadelphia. This is called the Happy Coffee Pumpkin. It is a coffee pumpkin beer, nitro hard coffee. It is low carb, only 130 calories, 5.2% alcohol by volume, and it is made with Colombian coffee, and it smells magnificent. Oh, it's so good.
I'm trying not to include the sound of Mike chewing in the microphone right now as you're talking, but I could see Mike's face as you're describing the beer.
Doesn't look like he would like to try.
I would try it. I don't know if Mike would want to try it.
No, I'm not a coffee beer guy.
Here's a description for you. Happy Coffee Pumpkin, made with Colombian coffee, low caffeine, nitro infused for a draft-like pour every time. Tasting notes of pumpkin, maple syrup, coffee, cinnamon, brown sugar. Super smooth, rich in taste like your favorite pumpkin beer, but low in calories and carbs. Keep it light this fall. So, it's pretty awesome.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, you go next.
Well, I am drinking a Hager Weiss from Antietam Brewing Company. It's a Hefeweizen beer, and it is 5.3 alcohol by volume. Hefe.
So if you're watching us on YouTube, I apologize for eating while recording, but I didn't have a chance to sit down and have dinner when I got home because of traffic and things like that. If you listen to our post-show bloopers section, you'll hear some of my explanation about the day I had. So I didn't really have time to prep for a drink. Yeah. I didn't have time to prep for tonight, drink-wise, so I figured let me just hop on the fall wagon and drink a Sam Adams Jacko pumpkin ale.
Nice.
Because I know it's tasty and I can handle it right now.
So the one episode I don't drink pumpkin ale, everybody else does.
Hey, I didn't have time to prep. Like I said, I would have looked for something 2001 related if I could have.
Zima?
Mike, anything happened this week?
This day in film history. In 1950, All About Eve, directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, and starring Betty Davis and Ann Baxter, premieres Academy Award Best Picture in 1951.
Who's the movie about?
About
Eve.
Oh, good.
All About Eve.
All About Eve.
You did win the Best Picture. There was a movie about Mankiewicz that came out a couple of years ago called Mank.
Yep.
Which I found out recently was directed by David Fincher, which I thought was kind of odd. What's your second one you got there, Mike?
1973, Badlands, directed by Terrence Malick, starring Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek, premieres at the New York Film Festival.
I've heard of the film. I've never seen the film. So I know that shocks you that I didn't see a movie, but there are some out there I haven't seen. Mike, do you have a must-try beer or craft destination for us this evening?
I have a must-try. No, I have a craft destination, yes.
This
From
day
Michigan.
in beer history.
Exactly. From Michigan, this is the Jolly Pumpkin Artisan Ales. Brew houses and tap houses abound with this company, but the first production facility remains in Dexter. Jolly Pumpkin was the originator of all wild ales and all oak aged brewing in the U.S. It's all they do, and they do it well. They use old world brewing methods to produce some of the most complex sour and mixed fermentation beers anywhere, and they consistently winning awards for them. Stop by and try their brew pub locations. And have several. I'm not going to go through them all. These are all in Chicago. For rare and delicious ales and a full menu of food to pair them with.
Right.
I like the name. Jolly Pumpkin.
Jolly Pumpkin.
So it's about that time for our synopsis. According to Glip, this synopsis, according to Glip, is brought to you by Newsly.me. Newsly.me is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android that reads the news to you in a natural human voice. Stop scrolling. Start listening. Go to Newsly.me today and put in the promo code ANDFERMENT to get your first month premium subscription for free. So Glip, again, for anybody new to the show, Glip is our recording program, which is so generous enough to give us a synopsis of the episode every week that we record. And often the synopsis is a little off the wall.
A little?
No different tonight. So according to synopsis, according to Glip, our last episode, which is our birthday episode, we each talked about 5 or 6 or 7 movies from our youth that we rewatched a lot on VHS when we were kids, because each of us celebrates our birthday this month. This is what Glip had to say the episode was about, though. Kevman is having technical issues, and Leo is annoyed that Mike keeps falling off. Kevman and Megan discuss the Triple Trinity brew and filling it in the left nut. Leo wants to know if watching the Phillies is noticeable. Leo discussed the zenith of technology repair in 1982. Kevman and Mike talk about the best setup for movies and pizza. The participants discuss their plans for the crane kick and dating Elizabeth Shue. And waiting for the Klingon played by Danny DeVito.
What's this about me keep falling off? I don't get that.
It picked out some winners in this synopsis. So Kev was having some technical issues at the very beginning of the episode, which we covered. I was talking about the mic that kept falling off of my old microphone stand.
That's what it was.
It was annoying. So, but it took it as me talking about you, I think, instead, because it came out as your name instead of microphone. Kev and Megan had went to the Triple Trinity Brewery or something like that, or you had a beer.
We went to Swedesboro,
and had the Triple Trinity brew.
Yeah, that was the beer. Mm-hmm.
And you were
I drank it out of Mike's left nut.
Out of the left nut glass that Mike got us. I was trying to watch the Phillies game while recording and asked if it was noticeable.
But it was.
The zenith of technology repair in 1982 is when we were talking about using the pencil to roll up the tapes. Mm-hmm. Kevman and Mike talk about the best setup for movies and pizza. That was Mike talking about the Papa John's next door to the Blockbuster where he grew up. The participants discussed their plans for the crane kick and dating Elizabeth Shue. That, of course, was a discussion about Karate Kid. And Kevin made a joke about how every actor has played a Klingon and he's waiting for Danny DeVito to be the next one. So that was our synopsis, according to Glit. We'll be right back after a short break. During the short break, I'm going to be playing a promo for you from Back to the Blockbuster podcast. Can't get enough films and fermentation? Check out the last episode of Back to the Blockbuster podcast where they covered Hellraiser. You're the host, Leo, made a guest appearance on that show to talk about my favorite slasher film of the 80s, Hellraiser. We'll be right back after this short break.
After these messages, we'll be right
back.
Hey movie lovers, it's Jackson here from the Back to the Blockbuster podcast. If you've ever wanted to hear an amateur cinephile and an industry professional chat about film and television, then look no further, because every week my co-host Gaius and I, we bring you the latest industry news, break down the most recent trailers, try to beat the box office with our weekly predictions, and dive into our favorite movies on their anniversaries. And every second Friday, you can look forward to the Back to the Blockbuster spin-off, Deep Dives with Owen and Gaius, where the duo dissects a movie of their own choice. All this and more wherever you get your podcasts.
We are back from the short break where I forced a half a slice of pizza down my throat to bring to you our main segment.
It was impressive, too.
Yeah. 2001, A Movie Odyssey. We're going to look at the year 2001 and talk about some of the movies that came out that year. For this segment, we are using Box Office Mojo to help us with the top movies of that year. It's the year 2001. We're looking at in-year releases, and we are looking at the domestic gross, basically. I'll talk a little bit about the worldwide, but we're mainly looking at the domestic gross for that year. So 2001, 22 years ago, it was my first year as a teacher. And an interesting year for movies. As we were talking about in the pre-show, a lot of these movies that came out this year, I don't remember it being 2001 because I've seen these movies either so many times or rewatched so many times or whatever that I can't believe that it was 22 years ago that some of these films came out. Even especially the top 10. I think I have seen most of the top 10 multiple times, except for maybe number 10. But
probably not number 7 either.
I may have watched it once for one reason and one reason only, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, but not multiple times.
So, yeah, when I had discussed this with you guys last week, I said, so this is the year that Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring came out as a teaser to the fact that it was not the number one movie that year.
No.
I was shocked given that the number one movie that year was the beginning of another movie franchise. And I didn't realize it was popular enough at that point to overtake a book that was written in 1940. But the number one film that year, distributed by Warner Brothers, coming out on November 16th of 2001 and being shown on approximately 3,672 theaters on opening weekend, which is a lot. Making $90 million in its opening weekend and grossing $317 million plus over the course of its run. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. All right. We got to
That
talk
means
about
those kids are like almost 30 now.
No, they're in their 30s now. Yeah. Ron Weasley just had a kid.
This was the book, and actually, no. Let's be honest. This was the movie that sparked the whole big. We should ban books again because this is about wizards and witchcraft, and I don't need my kid reading about that. That goes against my religion, and they hadn't read the book in the first place. So
it also was. The book had come out in the 90s too, so it was a resurgence for the book as well. More people. Started buying it, reading it, and then the rest of the books became a phenomenon themselves. I was going to say we need to discuss this, given that this actor just passed away recently. Michael Gambon or Richard Harris as Dumbledore?
I like Gambon.
Gambon had more energy because he was younger, but if you read the book, I'd say Richard Harris probably embodied Dumbledore better than Michael Gambon.
Except for the later books where he moves around more, and then Richard Harris couldn't do it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Richard Harris was already fairly old and kind of sick already when he started filming it. What did he do? The first two or three? I think it was.
He did two.
Two, right? And then he passed. So I remember when Michael Gambon took it over in the third one, I was like, I'm not sure about this guy. And he eventually grew on me. Like I really enjoyed his performance by the end. But Michael Gambon actually just passed away last week, I want to say.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird that we're talking about this now. And I thought, all right, let's bring that discussion up because we've talked about these films extensively before. We have a whole episode about Harry Potter from, I think it was season 2 or season 3, something like that. So if you'd like to hear our take on Harry Potter, please go back to our earlier seasons to look up that episode.
So when they were looking to replace Richard Harris, I thought, and this is all purely based off of like appearances, who could kind of fill the shoes and act of the same manner. And Peter O'Toole came to my mind.
Peter O'Toole would have been good, I believe. I think he was also like around the same age as Richard Harris. And was also kind of sickly too at the time. He would have been good. No, the first one that came to my head, but I knew he probably wouldn't want to do it because it was
Ian McKellen.
Because he was already, doing the Lord of the Rings. It would have been Ian McKellen, yeah. Although I would love to have had a Patrick Stewart Dumbledore. And gay.
Make it so, Harry.
Enough of this charade, Voldemort.
Shut up, Weasley.
Not a Sean Connery?
Sean Connery as Dumbledore?
Yeah.
He pulls out the knife, you pull out the wand. He sends one of yours to the infirmary, you send one of his to the, what does those things called? The Dementors. That's the Hogwarts way. So I love the Harry Potter films, I love how they got darker along the way too as the characters got older, I haven't watched the original one in a really long time. I should probably check that out again at some point.
It's like on every month on some
every week.
I can only watch so many movies, and I have to keep time in my schedule to rewatch Shawshank every other day.
And it's going to be on the Christmas loop now because
I know it usually is freeform.
Yeah, it's going to be
freeform. I don't know how that channel makes money because the only advertisements they show are for freeform shows.
It's
Uh,
They
backed
advertise on other
backed by
networks.
Disney.
That's owned
It's
by
a-
Disney. Oh, there you go. That explains it.
It's owned by Disney.
Number 2 on the list, I had already mentioned, and it's one of the reasons I decided to go with this year. New Line Cinema releasing it on December 19th of 2001, 3,359 theaters on opening weekend. Opening weekend, it made 47 million and change, and then ended its run just shy of Harry Potter at 313 million, $364,114 gross domestically.
Just
A little
about $4
independent
million
film.
difference. So
Yeah, little indie film called The Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring.
I believe you and I believe we saw this in the theater, Lee.
You and I saw this in the theater, and then
A lady behind us.
Kev, did we see this in the theater too?
I don't think I did. No.
I don't think I saw it with you. I know I saw it with Mike, and then I think I saw it with. You remember my friend Felici, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it with him. Because it's one of those movies that I saw multiple times. Yeah, Mike and I saw this in the theater, and at the very end, there's that final scene with Frodo and Sam looking at Mordor in the distance and talking about how their adventure was just beginning,
Mhm.
and then it ended. And then the lady in front of us behind us? She was like, "That's how it ends." And I turned around and I said, "There's 2 more films." She went, "There's 2 more of it?
There's 6 more hours of
That's
this.
6 more hours of movie."
That's when her bladders were much stronger than they are today.
Wait till the director cut comes out. Then it's 19 hours of movie.
Oh yeah. Well,
Almost as good as when we saw Return of the King and the people in front of us kept standing up because they didn't realize there were 19 endings.
well, that's when my bladder was pushed to the limit.
Oh, yeah. It
All
was
those
like, all
endings,
right, next ending. I saw a re-edit that somebody did of the ending of Return of the King the other day on, I think it was on Instagram or something. It was really awesome. I'm like, wow, that was such a cool re-edit. So it's Frodo getting on the ship to sail to the Undying Lands.
Right.
And he looks back at the other hobbits who are on the shore, like watching him, and they're smiling and he's smiling and they're cutting back and forth. And then they cut to Frodo and you see his hand go out and open up and the ring's still inside it. And then he closes his hand on the ring and smiles one more time. And then it fades to black. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. I mean, it's totally against everything that the book was about, but that was a really cool edit. It was like how the movie should have ended or something like that. Number 3, global phenomenon for some reason. DreamWorks Distribution, that's basically the poor man's Pixar, released on December 6th, was it? No, closed on December 6th. It released on May 16th of 2001. Made 42 million in its first weekend and ended its run with $267.7 million total gross. The lead singer of Smash Mouth just passed away recently too, and their song, what the hell was the song they had?
Rockstar?
Yeah, Rockstar or All Star.
All Star.
Yeah, Katie just said it in the background. All Star was their big hit. That was the theme song of this movie, Shrek.
Shut up, donkey.
Okay.
Now, see, I can tell you why it was phenomenon. It's because ogres are like onions.
There's many layers to them.
Yeah, many layers.
Cakes have layers.
No, it made a lot of money in the bestiality community due to the interspecies relations between donkey and a dragon.
You hear that? She called me a noble steed.
She called me a noble steed. I think it was like the second or third one. I don't know. There's like 18
I
of
told
them.
you guys the theory I heard about why there's a talking donkey, didn't I?
I was just about to say that there's a fan theory.
Okay.
It was about go ahead, you tell it because I know what you're gonna say.
I heard or read, I guess, on the interwebs that the reason why, which fairy tale donkey came out of was Pinocchio, where the bad boys and girls were going to Pleasure Island and they were being turned into donkeys and then forced into labor. And that's where it's from.
That's the same. It's the theory that I had heard too, that they were from the what was that, the Pleasure Island or something like that?
Yeah,
It's
Pleasure Island.
It's Pleasure Island, and that's where
where they drank and smoked and broke things and
no, drank and
much-
smoked in the original film, not in the reboot. because you can't show that shit on screen because
Oh.
people get insulted. But Shrek, yeah. I mean, I like the first one. I thought it was funny. Do you know who was originally supposed to be Shrek?
Chris Farley.
Chris Farley.
Oh,
He's-
He actually recorded some of the dialogue for the film before he passed. After he passed away, the movie went back into production. They brought Mike Myers in, who decided, I'm going to use this voice that I've been developing since I was in So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Mhm.
And they had to go back and like re-edit some of like the animation and stuff because he wanted to use this Scottish accent. And it was I think it cost them a lot of money to do the re-edits, but then they made it back in the box office though, so.
And they've had at least three sequels.
There's Shrek, Shrek 2, Shrek the Third, Shrek Ever After, Shrek Does Dallas.
and then you got three Puss in Boots movies out of it.
3 Puss in Boots movies. How come Donkey never got a movie?
Because Eddie Murphy is a pain in the ass to negotiate with.
Literally.
Yeah.
So we go from DreamWorks to the rich man's Pixar, Walt Disney Studios motion picture, released November 2nd of 2001, 3,200 theaters, making $62 million plus in its opening weekend and closing at $255 million and more. I had seen all 4 of the first 4 films on this list in the theater, either by myself, with one of you guys, or with my wife Katie, and possibly multiple times with you guys, by myself, and with my wife Katie. And number 4 is no different.
Kitty,
Monsters Inc.
Kitty.
My wife Katie just did it in the background. Kitty.
Kitty.
I love Monsters Inc. We already talked about this on our Pixar episode, that Monster Inc. is one of my tops in the list of Pixar films.
Very original story too.
Yes.
I like the little twist at the end that laughter is stronger than fear and all that good stuff. All those Disney endings.
I like the sock.
You like what?
The sock.
The sock. Oh, when he's got the sock on him. we got a 5822 or whatever is the number they scream out.
Yeah,
Where's your paperwork, Wazowski?
Always watching.
Always watching. No, I love Monsters Inc. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it's funny. Like, I have seen so far the first 4 in the theater multiple times. What's that?
Snow cone?
Snow cone? It's lemon. I swear.
I know what you're thinking, but it's lemon.
It's lemon. Now, number 5.
We're out of snow cones. I'll make more.
Number 5 I have seen, but not in the theater. And not really because
they did it.
Not really because I wanted to. I think it was like a movie we watched in school on like a late afternoon where we were trying to just get through the day or something.
It was just a rehash of the original.
That's what most of these sequels like this are. It's opened August 3rd, 3,100 theaters, 67 million in its opening weekend, which actually has it number 2 on the list for openings.
Yeah, number 3.
And then closed at 226 million, making it 5th in the year for release. Rush Hour 2 with Jackie Chan and everybody's favorite comic turned actor, Chris Tucker.
Rock. Oh.
Chris Tucker. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
The first one was funny. I enjoyed the first one. But the second one was just...
They did it all in Japan, right? Or
China. It was role reversal.
Did they do a third one?
Yes.
That's how little I know about the franchise. Speaking of sequels, I'm going to move on because I could care less about Rush Hour 2. Yeah, number 6 is another sequel. Came out May 4th of that year, 68 million opening weekend, and 202 million in its closing. The Mummy Returns.
It was a good sequel, not enough to, circumvent the original, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
The original's still the better one, but I thought it was, as far as sequels go, it was entertaining. Yeah. Aside from the very, very poorly rendered CGI of The Rock at the end.
Yes.
Just the Scorpion King. It was funny. I saw a thing on, it was either like TikTok or Reels or something yesterday, and it was the actors from The Mummy then and now. and most of them look kind of older, or Brendan Fraser's like very heavy now, and like and then they get the Rachel Weisz, and she looks exactly the fucking same. I'm like, geez, Katie just said it behind me. It's Celebrity Vampire. I was like, that's right. She's one of my celebrity vampires.
That's right.
Doesn't get old, man. But yeah, Mummy
I
Returns.
remember when they did the Mummy, the Emperor's Tomb or something like that, the third one.
Oh, the third one.
And they aged up the son.
Mm-hmm.
It was only a matter of like 3-4 years after the Mummy Returns. They aged up the son to like a grown man, and Rachel Weisz was like, "No, I'm good.
She was like, I'm good." Yeah, they got Maria Bello to play her part. It was what the hell was that one called?
Substitute.
Was the Mummy? Wasn't like Curse of like the Emperor Dragon something?
Tomb of the Emperor, or the Emperor's Tomb, or
something to do with the Emperor, because they were in Japan or something like that. Because Jet Li was the Mummy, wasn't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Number 7, I did not see in the theater. I saw it when it came out on cable, and I only watched it for one reason. Let me talk about this first, and you can guess the reason. Came out on May 25th of 2001, 3,200 screens. Opened at 59 million, closed at 198 million, which sounds like a decent gross number, but when you think about the fact that the movie cost more than that, it is a Hollywood bomb. That movie, talking of bombs, that movie is called Pearl Harbor. So can you guess why I bothered to watch this film, gentlemen?
You did it because of Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, Josh Hartnett. You got it right. And Ben Affleck.
And Ewan Bremner.
My wife in the background just went, Kate Beckinsale.
But you would have to admit, that's why the two main stars were fighting each other the whole time.
It was the worst movie ever.
It was a Michael Bay film.
There you go.
We all love Michael Bay. And it was like Michael Bay kind of like saying like, oh, James Cameron did Titanic. I can one up that shit. And did
I can do a
Harbor.
history movie.
Hey, don't mess with Cuba's, role. Cuba was great.
Cuba Gooding Jr. Well, he played the only real character in the film. Like his story was intriguing because it was a real friggin' story. I mean, like Titanic worked because you had genuine chemistry between the leads. You had a tale that was interesting. It didn't overtake like what happens at the end. And, like Pearl Harbor was like, it should be about
Here's
World
a love
War
triangle with
that's the thing. Like, it should be about. It's Pearl Harbor. It should be about Pearl Harbor. It should be about a love triangle. Like,
I think it's more that Pearl Harbor itself was like a little note in the movie when it kept going way after Pearl Harbor. Like, why are we still going?
Not to mention James Cameron is just a better director anyway.
Not true.
This was, Midway looked and said, no. And they did Midway, and it was much better.
That leads to number 8, a movie that I saw in the theater with my wife. And I remember coming out of the theater and saying to her, God damn, that was a fun movie. Like, I actually had fun watching that movie. It was a Warner Brothers film released on over 3,000 theaters, opening at 38 million and making 183 million. It was a mild hit, basically, when you look at the cast and the money spent on it, but it did make back its money worldwide. That is Ocean's 11, the reboot starring George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, and a slew of other actors. And I still watch it today, think to myself, man, that's a fun movie.
Yeah.
What I like about it,
few reboots that are actually worth watching.
Well, I was going to say one of the reasons I like it, even though it's a reboot, is because it didn't try to match the original. It was a completely different story. The original was very much a drama, and they didn't succeed in the end. And one of the characters even gets killed during the heist. Whereas this one was more like, oh, let's take a fun, lighthearted look at this. Let's make a little bit of comedy in it. Throw some technology in there. Let's use the charisma of our extremely handsome leads, and have some fun with it. And I really love this movie. It's one of my favorites. Ocean's 11. Not so much Ocean's 12.
This was
Steve Soderbergh.
Soderbergh.
Yeah. This was This around like the height of his career too, because he had done Traffic and
Men
won
in
an Oscar
Black.
for that, and or not Traffic.
Mhm.
Traffic. He had won an Oscar for that. So, number 9, I saw once. Not in the theater. I saw it when it came out on cable. I watched it one
Yep.
time, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I think the best part of this film was watching Vince Vaughn get eaten by tiny dinosaurs. It's Jurassic Park 3, which opened July 18th to $50 million and closed at 181. It was definitely a flop. All I remember about it.
Wait. Vince Vaughn didn't get eaten by tiny dinosaurs in this
Wasn't it
one?
Vince Vaughn who gets eaten by the tiny dinosaurs in that film?
No,
I know he's in
no.
that movie.
No, he's in the second one. He's not in the third one.
He's in the second one?
Yeah.
No, the third one, they go back to the island to look for the lost kid
Yeah.
with William H. Macy and Tia Leone.
William H. Macy, Tia Leone.
All right. Maybe
it
I'm
had
blending them together. I don't
Alan
know.
Grant. Yeah.
I do remember that scene where Grant has the nightmare on the plane where the Velociraptor turns to him and says, Alan!
Alan.
So I'm looking it up now because I don't remember and it's like bothering me. So
Yeah,
Jurassic Park 3. Sam Neill, William H. Macy, Tia Leone. I think you're right because I don't see him on the cast here, so he must have been in the second.
He was in the second one, yeah.
Yeah, I think because the second and third one I've only seen a few times between the two of them, and I think they just kind of blend together for me.
Yeah, the second and third, like when they announced that they were doing the sequel to Jurassic Park, and I read the book from Michael Crichton, and I was like, okay, so I'm excited for this movie if it's going to be just like the first one based on the book, and it was nothing like the book because Spielberg desperately needed to put the dinosaurs on the mainland, and I was like, it just took a right turn for the worst, and after that I was like, no, I'm good, I don't need to watch the others.
And then Jurassic World Dominion put all the dinosaurs on the mainland. Michael, what are you saying?
I say I actually prefer the third one over the second one.
I've only seen it one time, so I can't attest to that myself, but I'll take your word for it. Number 10. 20th Century Fox release on 3,500 theaters, 68 million opening weekend, 180 million total gross. Another bomb. We talked about this on our Tim Burton episode because this is one of the later flops of his career, Planets of the Apes.
Yeah. And I like Tim Burton. I'm a Tim Burton fan, and this is just one that
same.
Keep it out of his collection.
I saw it because I like Tim Burton, and I was intrigued because I like the original Planet of the Apes, but it was a turd. Nonsensical twist ending. Just
bad casting.
Mark Wahlberg talking to monkeys.
Right.
Hey, ape, how's your mother?
How's your mother?
It was just it was definitely a miss, and I don't know if it was just Burton wasn't equipped to write a film like that, or like I said, like with the Ocean's 11, I like that reboot because it did its own thing, and what Planet of the Apes was, it tried to do something like the original with still putting a twist on it, and it just didn't work.
No.
The only thing I liked in that film was the ape designs were really, really good.
Oh yeah.
And the performances from Tim Roth, Paul Giamatti, and Michael Clark Duncan were they were amazing. But otherwise it was No, number 11 we've talked about just recently because it was on our Ron Howard episode. It is the movie that won Ron Howard 2 Oscars for Best Director and for Producer. Releasing December 21st of that year on only 11 theaters. That's crazy. It made $367,000 its opening weekend because it was a limited release. But then once it got its wide opening release, it ended up finishing the year with $170 million, which is pretty good for a prestige film. And that movie is A Beautiful Mind. Also won Jennifer Connelly a Best Supporting Actress Oscar. One of the better performances from Russell Crowe before he...
I believe that introduced Jennifer Connelly to Paul Bettany.
Paul Bettany, yeah, because they got married after that film.
Yeah.
Good movie. Not historically accurate,
Nope.
as with a lot of those movies based on true stories. But
What?
what? What's up, Mike?
It's not historically accurate? What?
I thought you saw something I didn't see.
No.
Number 12, a movie we've talked about before, for the simple joy of watching Ray Liotta eat his own brains.
Ugh. Grosses me out.
Metro Golden Mare production. It's
Heaven's out.
MGM. February 9th release, opened to 58 million, closed at 165 million adjusted gross. Did pretty well because of the popularity of Silence of the Lambs, but wasn't as good a film, and it's Hannibal.
No.
Right.
They
It didn't
offered
bring
it.
back.
They
right,
offered
go
it to
ahead.
Jodie Foster, but she turned it down because she didn't like how gory and violent the film was, which was a turn from the first film.
Yeah, that was more of a psychological
thriller. Yeah. Whereas Hannibal was kind of gross out.
Yeah. I mean, I was more grossed out by the brain eating than I was by the pigs eating a man alive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that was and that was Gary
That
Oldman.
was great. Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman in an uncredited role.
The man can play any part, even if it doesn't have a face.
Even if it doesn't have a face, yes. He played a man without a face who gets eaten by pigs. Hannibal's a weird movie, man. It really is.
Yeah.
The number 13 on the list is another sequel. I saw this in the theater with my wife as well, and we found it very enjoyable.
Theater.
As far as sequels goes, it was pretty enjoyable. It was a movie, Universal Picture. It opened on 3,000 screens, 45 million opening, closed at 145, which is pretty good for an R-rated comedy sequel. And that movie is American Pie 2.
This is where you find out what she did in band camp.
Yeah.
See, I didn't watch the second one because, what else could I learn from the first one? After the first one,
It was actually pretty enjoyable. It was funny. It was a lot of rehashing of jokes from the first film, like Stifler's mom.
Yeah.
But they took them out of high school. They put them on a beach house because they're hanging out for the summer or whatever, getting to their usual disgusting hijinks. But it still had some pretty funny jokes in it. Jim gets some redemption with the girl with Allison Hannigan who used him in the first film, but they fall in love in this film because she's trying to help him attract Nadia, the foreign exchange student, but they end up falling in love with each other. It's simple comedy, but I found it enjoyable, especially the scene where the four guys are in the house with the two women. And they take a job painting the house because they're trying to prove that the women are lesbians. And Stifler opens up the drawer and pulls out a dildo, and he looks at his friends and he goes, "Lesbian artifact." Cracking up in a theater at that. Talking about guys who had no career after. What happened to Stifler and Jim and all the other guys?
Allison Hannigan probably had the most successful career.
Allison Hannigan definitely had the biggest career because she went on to do How I Met Your Mother and some other things.
She was the biggest star coming from Buffy, but to that anyway.
She probably had the biggest name at that point.
Well, Tara Reid had some notable things going for her. I mean, honestly, all the guys were no names. Tara Reid had some things under her belt.
And then she turned into a hot mess that ended up in the Sharknado films.
Yeah.
Allison Hannigan went on to How I Met Your Mother.
Natasha Lyonne.
Natasha Lyonne has a series on Netflix now. Mina Savari went on to do American Beauty after this.
Yeah.
And Shannon Elizabeth kind of disappeared though. She was in the
she's in poker. That's where she's making her money.
She was in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back.
Yeah.
She's a poker star now. Yeah,
she's a poker star. She's a badass poker player. And I think these movies, this is a franchise, and this has kind of overshadowed the National Lampoon movies. Because there's an American Pie for everything.
Presents, yeah,
right.
I saw this and the third one, American Wedding. I haven't seen any of the other American Pie films.
No, neither have I.
All right, talk about the start of a franchise. Still going. Opening June 22nd, 2,600 screens, $40 million opening, $144 million closing gross. The Fast and the Furious.
Can do it with family.
Yeah.
No, you
I-
shouldn't.
It wasn't
You shouldn't-
about family back then. No.
You shouldn't do it with family, but you can do it with family. Okay, I'm getting this mixed up.
Do you remember
You
what
have
the first movie was
family.
about? You remember what the
Street
first movie was?
racing.
It about family?
Street racing.
It was
It
only
got
mildly about
undercover.
street racing. It was about Paul Walker as an undercover detective going into the world of street racing to stop Dom Toretto and his gang, who were selling bootleg VCRs and DVD players. It went from that to flying a motherfucking car in space, driven by Ludacris.
Luda.
And
Don't forget
co-starring The
also
Rock
having
and John Cena
Rock,
and Jason
John Cena,
Statham.
and I think wasn't Roman Reigns in one of them?
Yeah, he was in Hobbs and Shaw, the spinoff one. They had a spinoff too. There's 10 films and a spinoff. Yeah, talking about a movie that went really far away from its original concept.
Especially since the main guy died.
Mm-hmm. Well, they kind of wrote off his character at the end of the last film that he was in. They mentioned him a little bit in the last few films, but they don't, obviously don't show him. Number 15 was supposed to be the start of a franchise, but barely got through the second film. Opening to $47 million, closing at $131 million. Lara Croft Tomb Raider, starring Angelina Jolie.
I just didn't think it'd have a great story.
It didn't. It was
She was
one of those.
fine as Lara Croft, but
Mhm.
I mean, the story just sucked.
It was marketed on her figure in the Lara Croft costume.
Yeah.
Which is what Lara Croft looks like.
Yeah, but that's all it was, really. It didn't that was the movie poster was her dressed as Lara Croft, basically, and it didn't have it was one of those, again, one of those video game movies that didn't bother with the video game.
No,
Right.
yep.
Number 16, opening at 25 million, closing
Wow.
at 112. Dr. Dolittle 2.
Why?
Because the first one was so good.
Well,
Because
first
Eddie
one-
needed money.
First one
Eddie needed money, so it
first
happened.
one made a shit ton
How
of
do
money.
you need money after Shrek?
Well, Dr. Dolittle, the first one made a lot of money, so
Mhm.
they always going to end up doing a sequel at some point.
Well, Eddie was riding high. He had a haunted mansion under his belt with that.
Well,
He had,
Jesus
the-
Christ.
At
he
this
had,
point in his career,
Meet
Shrek
the-
was the only thing that was really working for him.
Yeah.
Was it Meet the Clumps or something like that? Wasn't
Yeah, the Clumps, yeah. The sequel
the
to
Nutty Professor? Yeah. So this was his era. This was his time. Time to shine.
Oh, yeah. His era for
This is his
sequels.
demise.
I actually forgot that there was a Dr. Dolittle 2 until I looked at his list. 17, the beginning of another franchise that went on for way too long. Spy Kids. Opening to 26 and closing at 112. And I remember watching this going, man, what is up with this fucking movie and the special effects in this thing?
Mhm.
I mean, I know it was a kids movie. It was marketed to kids.
It had Antonio Banderas.
That's because it was directed by Robert Rodriguez, who was collaborator with Banderas on the Desperado films. I don't have much else to say about it.
No. It was a children's movie when we were all out of college.
Yeah, so we were not children anymore at that point, even though I went to see Harry Potter multiple times in the theater.
That's not a children's movie.
Number 18 only opened on 4 screens, December
Wow.
28th. But then after its wide release, did pretty well for starting out at only $179,000, closing at 108 plus. Black Hawk Down.
Good movie.
It is a
This
very
is
good movie.
Josh Hartnett, Ewan McGregor.
Mhm.
Trying to think who else was in it that
It's
stands
like
out.
a who's who of
Yeah. Was
like
Tom Hardy in
up
this?
and comer.
No, he wasn't.
I'm looking it up. Hold on. It was Josh Hartnett, Ewan McGregor, Eric Bana, Tom Sizemore, William Fichtner, Ewan Bremer, Sam Shepard, and some other actors who I recognize, but aren't like super famous. But yeah, like, it was like a who's who of like up and coming guys.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Ewan McGregor, I think, was just coming off of Phantom Menace. or was in the process of filming it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Sizemore was coming off of Saving Private Ryan. Josh Hartnett was, hot shit back then.
Yeah.
He was coming off of Pearl Harbor. So yeah, that's a very good movie. Very tense movie.
Yeah.
Very intense movie. Number 19, 2,500 screens, 22 million opening, 108 closing. Introduced us to the charm that is Anne Hathaway, The Princess Diaries.
Considering the way Disney was going, they had a flop with Pearl Harbor, they had a hit with Monsters Inc., and a hit with this. Later on, they're going to have another flop.
Yeah, like this was a hit despite like not a lot of marketing and very little word about it. But it was, I actually enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like Walt Disney, live action films go.
They should have stopped at this one.
The second one wasn't bad either. I don't know.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Sorry.
Yeah. I read somewhere, I think they were trying to get Anne Hathaway to come back to a third one.
Oh, yeah?
And she's like, I got an Oscar now, and I regularly show my boobs in films. I don't have to do The Princess Diaries anymore. Number 20, very weird film. Written and directed by Cameron Crowe, starring Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz. 25 million opening, 100 million closing. Vanilla Sky.
Different cruises, by the way.
Yes, spelled differently. Yes, one is a Spanish cruise, the other one is a Scientologist.
The other one is Royal Caribbean.
Yeah. It's weird that this is written by the same guy that did Jerry Maguire and Almost Famous.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he got Cruise in there.
Yeah, it's a strange movie. Self-indulgent and vain publishing magnate finds his privileged life upended after a vehicular accident with a resentful lover. All I know is like,
so it is Jerry Maguire.
It's basically
Just without the sports.
Yeah, it's a weird movie. Speaking of weird films, number 21, weird but actually mildly decent film.
Oh, I think this is one of this is a movie that we could bring up next week.
Yes, it is a ghost film. It is called The Others. Opens at 14 million, closes at 96 million. A film with a really good twist ending. I'm not going to give it away at this point because we may talk about it next week. So,
yep.
Stars Nicole Kidman. I think kind of underrated and probably kind of forgotten because of some similarities it had to like The Sixth Sense. Ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Number 22, the film that made Reese Witherspoon a megastar. Opening at 20 million, closing at 96 million. An MGM release, Legally Blonde.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she had been around already a couple of years, did a few films before this, but this is definitely the film that made her a household name.
There's a student in one of my classes who does a remarkable impression of Jennifer. Come on.
Jennifer Coolidge?
Jennifer Coolidge, yeah. Oh, you look like the 4th of July. You make me want a hot dog real bad. And she'll start on that, and I'm like, okay, you got to stop.
That's actually not a bad impression that you gave just now.
Thank you.
Legally Blonde. It's a good movie, too. Another good one. Number 23, 3,000 theater opening, 30 million opening weekend, 93 million closing. A mild bomb by those standards. It stars Julia Roberts, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Billy Crystal, and what's that sad sex name that I can't think of right now?
You're thinking of John Cusack.
John Cusack. Thank you. I knew you would get it when I said sad sack.
Yes, this is its typical dark comedy.
Typical dark comedy, romantic comedy, with the wrong person. It actually has some moments in it. But it's a typical like John Cusack kind of romantic comedy with the wrong person, finds the right person at the end. It does have an amazing cameo from Christopher Walken, though. My wife likes this film. I took her to the theater to see it. You remember this film, Kate? America's Sweethearts.
Revolution Studios.
Yes, I never even heard of Revolution Studios.
They're the same ones that did Black Hawk Down.
Oh, wow. No, I guess
But
they
I've never heard of them until I saw this.
took a swing with one and missed with the other. Next film, number 24, Cats and Dogs. It's a film about cats and dogs.
Uma Thurman and Janine Garofalo.
You're thinking of The Truth About Cats and Dogs, which is a very good movie. This is a movie where dogs and cats are at war with each other, and the humans have no idea.
Oh. How did I miss this movie? And how did it rank higher than Training Day?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's more live action than it is actually. It's not a cartoon.
It's not an
live
animated
action.
film. No, it's a live action film with voice actors playing the roles of the cats and dogs. The cats and dogs have like a secret society. They're at war with each other, but the humans have no idea because they just act like animals in front of the humans. That old chestnut. Number 25.
Oh, well, now since you've explained it that way, it definitely sounds like it should have surpassed Training Day.
Oh yeah. I would have much rather it had been The Truth About Cats and Dogs. That's a much better film. Number 25, introduced the world to Julia Stiles. Save the Last Dance.
Did it? Did it introduce us to her? Because I think.
Oh no, she was in 10 Things I Hate About You before that.
Yeah.
Right before that was 10 Things I Hate About You, because that was 99. But this was a pretty big hit, I think, considering it had a small release.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the top 25. Should we start doing picks out of 10 now, or
let's go to 30. We just
do 30.
That we have. Yeah, that way we can have a nice round number between. We go from 30 to 40.
Okay. Plus, you want to talk about Atlantis: The Lost Empire, number 26.
Well, there's some good ones in these next 5.
He wants to talk about Jimmy Neutron.
Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, number 27.
Atlantis: The Lost Empire was a flop for Disney, only making $329,000 opening weekend.
But it only opened on 2 screens. It's weird that Disney would do a small release for one of their films like that.
They advertised the shit out of it.
I know, but like a 2-screen release on opening weekend is usually like something you see for like an independent film.
Yeah,
and not a Disney film. I mean, it did make $84 million at the end, which is a decent number, but I don't know what the budget was for the production of the film or the marketing or anything like that. So,
for Disney,
this is one of their hand drawn, right? I mean, they did have elements of
one
CGI,
of the old
but
school
this is more of the hand drawn,
But for a Disney animated movie, that's not great.
Yeah, and it wasn't a musical either, which I think is probably another thing that held against it.
Yeah.
Barely beating out number 27, Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. Talk about weird animation. I did not realize this came out in 2001.
No,
I kind of thought this was later. And I thought it did a little better than it has here, but this is a genuine flop when you look at how much it cost to make this film.
Considering the director and the actors it had in it.
I know. Opened on 3,200 screens, opened to just shy of 30 million, and only closed at 78 million to what was probably like $150 million budget, I would think. Directed by Spielberg, starring Jude Law, Haley Joel Osment, and a number of other people. AI, artificial intelligence.
This was a rather depressing movie.
It's a depressing movie. I thought it was a decent movie. I thought it was very well acted. Jude Law was amazing in it.
This was also a. Come on, guys. Clockwork Orange, Shining.
Yeah, Kubrick.
A Kubrick movie.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick wanted to direct this, but passed away before he could do it. Spielberg picked it up as like a way to honor him because he was a student of Kubrick's. It's one of those movies that I think suffers from being too long.
Yeah.
The whole like last maybe half hour of the film I could have did without. That's the really sad portion of the film too. Like I think it could have like ended a little sooner. And then number 29, like you said, I can't believe this was so low. Considering, Denzel won an Oscar for this.
King Kong ain't got nothing on him.
Yeah,
I thought in October, so
yeah, but I thought it was. It came out in October. We closed at 76 million. So maybe if I went to go into like the 2002,
I think it probably was one of those ones that picked up late after it was out for a while.
Yeah, because if it won Oscars, it means that it came out prior to Oscar season, which is in March. So Yeah, Training Day. I should say the name of the film.
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, Denzel Washington. Great movie.
Yep. Eva Mendes.
Eva Mendes. I think it was one of her first films.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Training is a good one too. Number 30, Along Came a Spider.
Pretty much a sequel from The Bone Collector.
Yeah, and
this was Alex Cross, right?
Alex Cross. Yeah, it starred Morgan Freeman and what's her name? Ashley Judd.
Yes.
Right? I believe yes. I saw this once too, and I don't remember much about it.
When I think of this movie, it takes me to Kiss the Girls, which was the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I see that name, but I'm thinking of the movie before.
Because it's another Alex Cross film, and I think I get the two blend together for me.
Yeah.
So that's the top 30. So let's go from 31 to 40. Each of us will pick a film or two that we think we should point out a little bit. So let me look at this here and see if I should see. I don't see too many I really care to talk about. Numbers 31 to 40 here. Mike, do you have anything you want to point out?
Behind Enemy Lines, 40.
40, which is Behind Enemy Lines.
Yeah, that was.
Isn't that
that's Owen Wilson?
Owen Wilson, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stuck behind enemy lines.
I was like,
I had to eject out of my jet.
Next thing I know, they had guns pointed at me, and I was like, wow. It's a Werner Herzog film.
I didn't say it was great. I said it wasn't
bad.
No.
But I know, because I'm looking at the rest of the list.
I poke fun at Owen Wilson. It's not poking fun at the film. It's poking fun at Owen Wilson.
I'm not sure.
I see two that I could probably mention.
Well, give me one of them or two of them. We can both of them.
Swordfish.
Swordfish, yes.
Swordfish, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first movie that Halle Berry showed her boobs in.
That's right.
And honestly, it's going to make me sound bad, but it's really all I remember from that film. Because it is not a great movie.
It is Hugh Jackman taking a break from Wolverine, because I think didn't that X-Men just come out the year prior to this?
It's Hugh Jackman being forced to crack a code while getting a BJ, otherwise he's going to get shot in the head.
That's right, by John Travolta.
Yes, John Travolta in his first of a string of how over the top as a villain can I be? It started with this and then was Broken Arrow, The Punisher, Battlefield Earth.
Face Off.
Face Off was before this. That's probably the start of it, Face Off. I'm looking at this, like, I don't really know. Like, I mean, Bridget Jones's Diary was a pretty big hit. It was based on a novel. Mexican's not a bad film. It's Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Not the score.
The score was De Niro, Ed Norton, and Marlon Brando. And I remember it was sold on the three of them being that film, but it was kind of a bomb. Not a great film. It's okay. Shallow Hal, Jack Black. It's a weird movie.
It's got so many people riled up.
So it's a wedding planner for Leo then, huh?
Yeah, the wedding planner. About 41 to 50 here. Let me see. I'll go first on this one. I'm going to take. God, there's actually a pretty decent number of films in 41 to 50 that you can mention here.
There is.
I'm going to go with The Royal Tenenbaums just because it's a Wes Anderson film.
Okay.
And I'm a big Wes Anderson fan. That finished at 48 that year with 52 million. That was his follow-up to Rushmore. And kind of the first film to have that like Wes Anderson aesthetic to it.
All right. I'm going to take Moulin Rouge. I know you aren't Baz Luhrmann fans. I kind of enjoyed this. You know, I liked Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman. I really liked. Why can't I think of his name? The one who played Clown in Spawn. The one who was
Leguizamo.
Yeah, John Leguizamo was really good in this movie too. And that was the first Leguizamo movie I could think of really quick. Was Spawn.
Spawn, he played the fat clown.
No, it had good music. It had good, yeah.
I didn't realize Ewan McGregor could sing till that movie came out. So, Mike, what are you going to look at?
Well, There's two. One I want to make a joke of. The other one is actually serious.
Okay.
So let's go with the funny one first. Let's go talk about the movie where medieval people start singing Queen in the middle of the movie and talk about Knight's Tale.
And Bowie.
This is a film by a director who wanted to be Baz Luhrmann by having these anachronistic songs in some medieval shit, you know. Knight's Tale. I mean, it's I mean, I don't want to say it's the movie that introduced us to Heath Ledger because he was in the 10 Things I Hate About You as well.
Yeah.
But this is probably the one that made him a heartthrob, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Introduced us to
Shannon Sosaman, though.
Yeah. But this would lead to, like, you know, him doing Brokeback and Dark Knight and all these other things. Let's see here.
The one I really was going to talk about was number 41, Ali.
Ali, yeah, which is Muhammad Ali biopic with Will Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that was Will Smith's first Oscar nomination was for this film. I thought it did better than this. I was surprised it was this low on the list. I was surprised that it just barely beat The Animal, starring Rob Schneider.
Well, it was also a late release in December, so.
You also had Blow, which is a cocaine-infused film starring Johnny Depp and Paul Rubens, oddly enough. Let's see, 51 to 60.
51 to 60.
I will take. This is a low. This is unappreciated. It's K-Pax.
K-Pax.
I really like this movie
with
Kevin
Spacey.
Yeah, and Kevin Spacey and.
So was he really from K-Pax?
Well, it depends on how you interpreted the end of the movie. You know.
Wow. You know what?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. There's a couple on here too. I kind of.
Yeah. I'm surprised you're not going for 52, simply because of her.
Well, I know Kate Beckinsale's in Serendipity. She's in that with Sad Sack John Cusack. I've seen it, obviously, because Beckinsale's in it. It's not a great movie.
Oh, another good one.
Kate and Leopold, which is Hugh Jackman film.
You mean you're not going to go with 55?
50 Zoolander? I don't know. See, I wanted to go with 13 Ghosts at number 57, but I'm probably going to be talking about that next week on the Ghost episode.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I'll go with number 60, Heartbreakers, which is Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Oh, that's a good one too. And Sigourney Weaver
and Gene Hackman.
And Gene Hackman and
Jason Lee.
And Jason Lee?
He's
I was going to say the guy from Goodfellas. Why can't I think of his name? Damn, how many beers should I have?
The guy from Goodfellas.
Henry from
Ray
Goodfellas.
Liotta.
Ray Liotta. He was in it too.
He was in it too. Yeah.
Bandits had Billy Bob Thornton and
that was Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, and Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
So, Mike, we pretty much talked about every film in this list, but do you have one you want to point out?
We can skip 51 to 60 for me. I'm like, I don't. Nothing there
Mike
for me.
likes Gosford Park.
61 to 70. Holy shit. There's. Oh my God. I've seen a lot of these movies. I'm not going to say they're good.
I'm like, this is not.
I Am Sam, which is
Let's talk about Recess School's Out.
Recess School's Out. I actually saw that too, and I actually enjoyed that because I like the Recess cartoon series.
Yes, let's talk about something good for Disney on this one.
Yeah. Jeepers Creepers was a horror film. Not Another Teen Movie. I liked Evolution.
Evolution was
It was supposed to be like a spiritual sequel to Ghostbusters, but didn't do so well. But I actually kind of enjoy that movie. That's David Duchovny and Julianne Moore and Orlando Jones. It's I like that movie. Another teen movie was a spoof. What's he going with?
Kevin's going with Martin Lawrence and Black Knight.
Oh, Black
Not
Knight.
Black Knight. I thought he was going to go with C Spot Run.
Or not another teen movie.
I was going to joke that I Am Sam is the movie that Robert Downey Jr. talks about in Tropic Thunder, where he's like, you never go full retard. he's like Forrest Gump. Slow, retarded, but slow. Win an Oscar. He's like, I Am Sam. Sean Penn went too far. Let's see, 71
through 80.
It's another one.
74 for me.
Oh, Final Fantasy, yeah, right? Yeah.
Spirits Within.
It's,
And I actually saw From Hell in the theaters.
oh wow. Yeah,
I
From
saw
Hell
From
was
Hell in the theater,
that's
too.
the Jack the Ripper movie, right?
That's the one that my tour guide, the Jack the Ripper tour guide in London, based his entire tour off of this movie. It was embarrassing. It's like, dude, it's a comic book. You're quoting a comic book.
Final Fantasy
So,
Spirit was
About
Final
number
Fantasy.
79.
I remember Final Fantasy being. I was a little disappointed because I thought it was going to be more like the video game, but it wasn't a bad movie in
Oh.
in general. I mean, it's voiced by one of my favorite Hollywood vampires, Ming Na Wen. So,
Yes.
I was going to go with I could go with Jay on Silent Bob Strike Back at 79, or I can go with Monsters Ball, which is the movie where Halle Berry won an Oscar for getting reamed by Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
I was gonna go with What's the Worst That Could Happen because it's Danny DeVito and Martin Lawrence, and not because I liked the movie, but because a friend of mine was going out with this girl at the time, and he wanted to take her to see Moulin Rouge because he thought it'd be kind of romantic, and she convinced him to go see this movie instead. And he broke up with her afterwards. she didn't have the same movie taste that he had. Let's see, 80 or 81 to 90. So you got The Majestic in there, which was a drama film for Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. This was one of his dramas that was like, okay, he's got range.
He's got range. It was a decent film.
Between this and the Truman Show.
Not as great as Joe Dirt, number 85. Kevin,
I was going to say, I think I saw this in the theaters, but it wasn't that. It was Joe's apartment I saw in the theaters.
Oh my God, I would have rather seen Joe Dirt.
What?
Jesus.
Not Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles?
No. I thought, Kev, you would pick a number 88 since it's a Nolan film.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had looked at number 88.
Number 88, Memento.
Yes.
I figured you would either pick Memento or number 89 because it starred Nick Cage, Captain Corelli's mandolin.
I don't even think I've seen that one. I was seriously looking at number 90 though, because I like fall
Sweet
weather.
November. And then I'm looking at 90 to 100, and really nothing to talk about on that one.
No.
No Corky Romano?
No
for
Corky
you?
Romano. I'm good. You got, let's see, what do we got? Let's just go real fast through the rest. You got Summer Catch at 101, which is a Freddie Prinze Jr. classic.
The Last Castle at 104.
The Last Castle was good. That was Robert Redford. And James Gandolfini.
Yeah, that was a really good
Saving
movie.
Silverman was a film starring the guy that played Jim in American Pie. Pokemon 3.
That's Keeble's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Number
Number 111. Oh, that's
Othello.
Othello, modern day take on Othello.
All right.
3,000 Miles to
Pussycats.
Graceland, which is a film about Elvis impersonators robbing a bank.
Yep. Josie and the Pussycats.
Josie and the Pussycats.
That's right.
Just
Rachel Lee
above,
Cook.
just above Freddie Got Fingered, which Robert Ebert called the worst film he had ever seen in his life, and he wouldn't even review it fully.
What, Freddie Got Fingered?
Yeah. What do we got? Haunted Castle. Never heard of that. Osmosis Jones. It's an animated film with Chris Rock. Let's see.
Antitrust. That was Ryan Phillippe and Tim Robbins.
I'm going to talk about number 131.
And Rachel Lee Cook again.
The Ghosts of
Ghosts
Mars.
of Mars.
Ghost of Mars is a John Carpenter film, so you already know I definitely saw it.
I knew you were going to talk about it because it's John Carpenter.
It's a John Carpenter film. It was supposed to be Escape from Mars and was going to be the third film with Snake Plissken. But for some reason or another, he couldn't get Kurt Russell involved in it. The studio was going to pull the money on it or whatever, so he rewrote it as Ghosts of Mars. And it was not his best film. In fact, he only made one more movie after this and then retired from filmmaking. Curse of the Jade Scorpion was a Woody Allen film that bombed. Let's see what else we got here. Sexy Beast. That's a movie with Ben Kingsley. Ghost World. That's a very early Scarlett Johansson film.
Yeah.
She was a teenager in that film. Let's see what else we got here. Really nothing much else to talk about on the Bubble Boy 149.
There you
go. Now.
Let's talk about Glitter at 156. Mariah Carey starring turn. I have a friend of mine who every now and then he and his friends get together and they have a bad movie watch. And that was one of the movies that they did once, Glitter. They basically get hammered and watch bad movies. Pootie Tang. Hedwig and the Angry Inch is based on a Broadway musical about a trans man who's like a singer in a band. Pootie Tang 162. Nobody Pootie Tang. And that's it. I'm looking like you go really further down the list. You got Monty Python and the Holy Grail re-release. Ending at 179. And Sync, Bigger Than Live. And that's it, man. I'm looking at the very bottom of the list here, going down to number 200, and I've never heard of any of these films. You know that you gotta watch them. Well, I was gonna say, you know that their box office, duds when I've not even heard of them. So that is the year 2000, folks. Mike,
the year 2001.
So, Mike, you have any beer trivia or history for us this evening?
There's some beer history. Oktoberfest became an official Munich celebration on October 12, 1810, when the Crown Prince of Bavaria, later to become King Louis I, married Princess Teresa von Sachsen-Hildburghausen. Festival celebrating their marriage has been held annually ever since as Oktoberfest.
How long were you in Germany for?
I was going to say, didn't you speak German? He knows how to order a beer. That's all he knows how to do in German.
I am beer bitter. I can get you out too, so.
I can say this is a pencil.
I can say this. I am a donut.
I am a donut. What's that?
Ich bin Berliner.
Ich bin Berliner.
Ein Berliner.
I'm Berliner. I can say this is a pencil. Das ist ein Bleistift.
That was John F. Kennedy trying to say, I am a Berliner.
I am a Berliner.
He said, I am a donut.
I'm a donut.
I'm sorry. If you can see the name that's hyphenated.
Sachsen Hildburghausen. Therese von Hildburghausen. He must have an enormous Wandstücker.
That goes without saying.
So I will go first with revisiting drinks. I didn't have time to prepare, so I just grabbed a Jacko Pumpkin Ale from Sam Adams. Definitely not something that's going to disappoint me because I've had it before and I really enjoy it. So we're good there. Kev, how was your adventures in beer this evening?
Pumpkin Party Pumpkin Ale from Lone Pine, which is what I opened up after the Happy Coffee Pumpkin. It's okay. It's not the greatest. It's from Portland, Maine. I don't think I visited this when we went camping up there. It's okay. It's not my favorite pumpkin beer, but it was worth trying. The Happy Coffee Pumpkin was amazeballs.
That sounds good, man. I definitely would like to try that one out.
Yeah.
And Mike,
hey, you can never go wrong with a good Hefeweizen.
You're the Heffa man. All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight for episode 125, 2001, A Movie Odyssey. We hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Don't forget, you drop us an email at filmsoffermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsoffermentation. Find all of our social media and podcast links. You can visit us on teespring.com to buy some of our merchandise, or you can support us at Patreon, become part of the Films of Fermentation family. And if you're after you listen to this episode, don't forget to check out episode 126 of Back to the Blockbuster to hear me talk to Gaius and Jackson about the 1987 horror classic Hellraiser. And speaking of episode 126, next week is our episode 126. So don't forget to stop by the Crossroads between Pickled and Fermented for that episode. We're going to be talking about our favorite ghost movies. Ooh. It's spooky season, so it's time for us to start talking about spooky things. I'm going to go now so I can finish eating the pizza that's been sitting in front of me for the last hour, teasing me. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. On this book, you can find my good headphones. Oh.
Okay.
You guys like to hear about my day?
Yes.
My car stalled out on me 3 times on the way home yesterday.
On the way home?
Oh, shit.
On the
Yes.
road?
On the
shit.
road.
Uh-oh.
Finally got home. It stalled out in front of the driveway. So I had to keep cranking until I got it on long enough just to back it up and turn it off again.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to take Katie's car in this morning. And whenever I use her car, I always drive her into work because I'm using your car. I might as well
Sure.
drive you in
Absolutely.
on the way and all that. There was an accident on 42 this morning causing a 40-minute delay. Then the Ben Franklin Bridge was closed because of an accident. So we had to get off on a Walt Whitman, which meant we had to take 95 into Center City, which was fun. Then there was a military convoy coming through Center City this morning because A, you got Biden showing up in Philly tomorrow.
Yep.
And B, there's the worldwide protest for Hamas tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that was fun getting through that. All in all, it only took me 3 hours to get to work this morning. I show up at 10 o'clock. Thank God the people there are really nice about it.
Yeah.
I took off where I'm working from home tomorrow because I'm getting the car evaluated to see what's going on.
That's good.
So on the way home, Katie and I both had to work a little later because we had to make up time because we were both late today. So on the way home, I looked at GPS and 95 South was being shut down in various areas because of tomorrow.
Oh my God.
So I couldn't get down to Center City. So she took the train home and I drove from school to the train station, picked her up to come home. So we walked in the house at a little after 7.
And you're still okay with doing this at 7:30?
I'm okay with doing this. This is the 3rd podcast I've done this week.
Oh.
I was on the Back to the Blockbuster podcast Tuesday night.
Oh, yeah?
So Monday.